Hey, welcome to the weekly wrap up.
Hello, how is everyone doing? Welcome live on X, YouTube, and of course GSIC in the group. Sorry about the little tech issue. We should be live and working this time, which from the chat looks good. Yeah, all good. Obviously Bitcoin's just pumped over 65, so the whole market's gone a bit crazy. What are your thoughts?
Everything's gone a bit crazy, so including you, but we won't go there. So let's jump straight into the chart, shall we?
Okie dokie.
Yeah. So let's have a look. This is WIF. So I don't know if you guys, this has been in the chat since way below this price. So if you're in GSIC, we would have got in at about here. We'd be at about 270%. I put this one on X as well, and it is sitting now at 170%. So well done, guys. I hope you're have got this one and hanging on to it. So if you follow Shadi B as well, she has said that it looks like it's getting a Coinbase listing. So we want to hold on until that happens. So yeah, let's jump into Bitcoin. So I know we're late. So yeah, and probably all of you guys in Europe and everywhere have started work. So I'm sorry about that. So we've hit over 65K. We had a tether print this morning, although Paolo always says, okay, no, it's replenish the networks. It is literally because there is more demand for the market at the moment. So they need to print tether because the demand is there that, people are wanting to buy and get into the market. So we need the tether. And that's why there's more tether prints when the market is going up. So it's exciting. Watch for those tether prints because the market goes up. And like we're over 65. It does really, really look like we are going for an all-time high run and probably beyond. I'm looking to about 72 to 74 for this next wave up. It could continue. So ETF are driving this, and it's just so crazy. Retail hasn't even got in yet. It's not all over the news as yet. So wait till that happens, and it's just going to go crazy. So this chart is on TradingView. So if we have a look at kind of where we're going with this, and I'll take you back to the quantitative chart after this as well, because that's been my chart since about July last year that we've been working with, and it's got the 4-year timing. So we've got our wave one. Let's assume that the wave one was our 69,000. That was our greater pattern super cycle wave one. So the reason being is we're going into the fourth halving. So with Elliott wave, one cycle has 5 waves. So basically we've got 15 waves here, or plus corrective waves. And so all our up waves are basically one cycle. So that is each time we get a halving, we go into a new cycle. So we're going into the 4th cycle at the moment. We're going into the pre-run halving, which is normally our wave 1, and then we get a pullback. So being as this is a greater pattern wave 3, we're looking, we haven't got a top on this yet. So we're still in the early stages of this wave 1. So we're in probably potentially a 3 of the 1 at the moment. So when we're looking at this wave, we can see that we've got the 1 here. We're sitting maybe at about, 72 to maybe even 77. These are quite extended waves. It is a wave 3, larger pattern super cycle. So we'll get a small pullback. So when I jump to the quantitative chart, I'll run you through what I think with how the pullbacks work as well. So, and then we go into our larger pattern wave 3. So wave 3s are always the swiftest and the fastest. That's why this is absolutely exploding now, because we're going into those larger pattern wave 3s. So when we get to the 3 of the 3, which is potentially after halving, and then going into that's going to be our run up until, sort of early 2025. and then we are going to get the next pullback, and then we're going to have that end of 2025 will potentially get the high. So we're looking at probably about 200 grand potentially if we keep moving like this. So, if something changes along the way, we can let you know. But literally, the market we take one step at a time. So I'm not one of these people to go, this is guaranteed, because literally it's not guaranteed ever, because if the market changes, the waves change. So at the moment, what we're seeing is this pattern, and it's looking really good. So if we go to the quantitative chart and we have a look at the cycles of what has been happening. So this works with government. So I explain this every week. So when we get quantitative tightening, that takes some money out of the market. It means the market declines. When we get some easing coming in, it means that more money flows into the market, tether prints, that sort of thing. The money printer goes brrr, and we get these rises in the market. So when we're looking at, we had a perfect touch to my first red star. We came down, we didn't quite hit the green star, but we got almost there. And now we have absolutely taken off on this run. So this upper star is 83. That's our major resistance. Don't listen to Capo. He keeps telling us these major resistances are here. They're not. So this is a diagonal resistance. It goes from the April 21 high, the 3rd of November all-time high, and potentially that next high is looking at about 82, 83. So once we get to this, the all-time high, potentially we could do a wave extension that sets us up to that point. Then we're going to pull back for that halving. So what I have noticed with Bitcoin, it runs a lot to the moon cycles. If we go back to the all-time high, we had a moon cycle like where we had an eclipse. So the same thing is happening in 2025, which is where we'll sort of look for pullbacks and that sort of thing. We also have a partial eclipse happening on March 25. So of this year, which potentially could be our pullback prior to halving. So that's something to watch out for. I know it sounds crazy, but if you match up all of the highs and the lows, we do have these cycles with the moon. So it's crazy that happens, but it's potentially why we always say that we're going to the moon. So because a lot of the time we do have a full moon happening when these cycles are happening. So go figure. But so if we aim to look at a lunar eclipse in 2025, there's two of them. One will be a half pullback, and then we'll get a continuation, and then we'll probably have our larger pullback at that point. So depending on whether this next wave here, so this wave pattern to 200, so if we get to that point and we've got 5 waves in there, that may be wave 1 of 3. So this pattern, ignore this 4, that may be our next cycle up. So because we're going into the 4th cycle, we've got 3 cycles potentially with 69,000 being that top of the wave 1. So if we assume that this is wave 1 and this is 5 waves that we're coming up for the next section is wave 1 of the 5 waves in the next 3 waves, that's where you get these crazy $1 million predictions. So I've seen a lot of PricewaterhouseCoopers and those sort of people going, okay, I can see $1 million if the ETFs continue like this. And, I've gone, hang on a sec, how is that possible? Let's check out the Elliott wave and see where that's going. So if we assume that 200,000 is our wave 1 of 3, which is very possible with the way the waves are moving. So, and we stretch out some Lisa Narchi onto this pattern. Hang on, let me just get this attached correctly. So if we attach that there, we potentially bring this up. So we've got this as our, we've got lots of writing over this. So if we assume 200,000 to this point, which is our 5, come back down for a correction and then a continuation up, that's where we are getting those big figures. So let me just, this is, hang on. So yeah, so we've got our 200,000 on our wave here. And then normally the 618 is the next wave up. So that potentially is our 3 of 3. And it could go to the 786. Bitcoin loves the 786. So that's $686,000. So that would be the subsequent cycle. So going into the 5th halving. And then going into that 6th halving, everything going well, we are potentially, we would go to the 1.236 on my Lisa Narchi, and that is $1 million. So that is possible if Bitcoin keeps going as it is. So, you know, if anything changes, it has major network outages, that sort of thing, not going to happen. But with this current cycle and the way it's going and the way Bitcoin is controlling the market, that's potentially how we get $1 million in Bitcoin. So yeah, hypothetical, looks like it's about, you know, 3 cycles away. We're going into the 4th halving. So 5th halving would be the 3rd of the 3rd, and then the 6th halving would be the $1 million.
Okay, a few comments coming in on YouTube. Swift Ace, Lisa, best trader, and never Bitcoin, only up. So
no, we wish it was only up. It has been only up at the moment, so we can't complain.
It has. There was another comment on the last wrap up as well. If I can recall correctly, it was something along the lines of how there are countries like Australia and the UK who are regulating.
I saw that. So that was David M. And it said he wanted to know how retail investors are going to get money onto exchanges when the exchanges, the banks are limiting that. So banks go through cycles where they limit and they go, oh, there's been a bit too much fraud, we're going to limit money going out. So there's not any problem in Australia. I just moved $75,000 Australian dollars to an exchange, to an Australian exchange. I had no problems, no questions, didn't get stopped. So I think that's subjective to if somebody has a lot of credit card fraud or a lot of, you know, fraudulent activity on their account. I think that's very subjective to that, because I move money all the time and large amounts of money, and I've not had any issues. So UK is restricting, but what happens is when the markets do expand and, you know, everyone's getting into Bitcoin or everyone's getting into cryptocurrency, banks relax that because they want the money coming in and out, because they know that if you put it into Bitcoin and you're going to withdraw that when you get enough money, and that way that money's coming into the bank, and they want that to happen. So that is going to start happening. The banks will relax that as we go into the full bull market. It happens all the time. And then as we get to the top and a lot of the sort of, you know, people are getting ripped off and they're falling for, you know, every sort of, you know, bad sort of thing, the banks will go, oh, crypto's bad, we better restrict it again. So that's kind of what happens.
Yeah, it's been pretty evident with the UK as well, where they just a few years ago were saying they wanted it to be the hub of the world for crypto, and then, like David said, started going the opposite way of making withdrawals. But it does show that they can quite easily turn on a penny and just change their ideas and whatever works.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, we've got the CBDCs coming in and, you know, all the banks sort of testing that. So we're on that that pivot of that 40-year cycle where we're going in. We've had digital money. We've gone from the gold standard. We've gone into bonds. We've gone into digital money. Now we're going into cryptocurrencies. So and that's going to be evident more and more so with banks and CBDCs. So it's going to be a shift. It's by the time Bitcoin is at that $1 million mark, that's sort of like 10 years away. So if you can hold on, potentially it might go to $1 million. So we're going to have a lot of billionaires. But you think about how inflation works and how the cost of living keeps rising. That $1 million might not be worth what $1 million is today. In fact, it won't be worth what $1 million is today. So it will create a greater wealth, but you've got to put that in perspective with what the actual financial environment is at the time. So one house, like in the UK at the moment, for what you can get in Australia, you can get a 3-bedroom townhouse 20 minutes from the Melbourne city, in an area like Point Cook for about 600, 700,000. But in the UK, as we are seeing, you can get like a little tiny 1-bedroom attached like house, and it's looking sort of in Australian dollars, we're looking at sort of 600,000 to 700,000. So UK dollars, that's UK pounds, that's, what is it, Josh, about 300, 325, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's, what's that in US dollars? About 280.
Yeah.
So,
No, double it. Yeah, well, 500. Yeah. So 300 in UK pounds is going to be about 550.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So you've got to think, 10 years ago, that property would have been probably about half of that. So they say every 10 years, the property market doubles. So we're looking at that. So that's also, when we're looking at markets like this, and you've got economies like the UK going into massive debt, and they're, so we're going to see those houses sort of come back onto the market. And they're the ones, like, if you can afford to get into the housing market when this is sort of happening and people are struggling to pay mortgages. I know, not nice, but that's the time to buy. It's the same as when the market's red. You want to be buying. So, I remember, and I should pull out some of the tweets when I was saying to everyone to buy when FTX happened, that was the 4-year cycle. And if we looked at the quantitative chart, that was like, hang on, let me bring that up again. That was the timing. So we had a cycle bottom between 11/11 and 21 of the 12th, and FTX imploded at that point. So for anyone that says you can't predict the Bitcoin 4-year cycle with stuff that's happening, the charts predict that, and then it happens around it. So at this point, for everyone, I was saying that we were going to 50K. We've surpassed that. So if we got to certain points on the chart and we pass those, and I've been updating as we go, you can see that, most cycles we do get to the mid-level of the fibs. This one, it looks like we're going to that top level of the fibs. Like I was saying, that's about that 77 mark. We're currently at the, that center medium on the 3rd level of the pitchfork. So it's looking, it's moving congruently as if it's a 3rd wave. So, and that's what we want it to continue to do. So, and that's where we're going to get these big amounts. So it's looking good. But yeah, with that being said, don't get super greedy in this market, and make sure you're using stop losses and moving those up. So I know there's, I've seen a couple of big influencers just saying, just keep buying, just don't worry about anything. The market does go both ways. So unless this is a long-term strategy that you're hodling and you're like keeping those coins right till the end, to those 2025 targets. So if you're hodling and building that way, so We started with about 75 or 80,000. I can't remember the exact amount. I have got it in the group, but and we've held back 25,000 of that. So it must have been about 75 in there. And that hit about, I think, 182 today, Josh?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started DCAing in January last year. So that has literally only been over a year, and we've gone over 100% without doing anything. So that's the power of crypto in a bull market. So, and we did that so that we can show everyone that it is possible, and that if it's structured correctly, you're going to make some really nice gains. So, and for some people, that's life-changing money. So, you know, it's a nice amount to go from 75 and make 105,000 US dollars on that those trades. So it's awesome for doing nothing. So
saying that hodling by all means is suits for some, but as Swift Ace on YouTube just said again, always got Lisa's scout strategy with moving stops ASAP in the back of my head. Best 2-minute video ever.
That's awesome. Yeah, so if you haven't, head to my YouTube. That's an awesome strategy, and it just works on having like two different sets of indicators, which are the 100 and 200 MA and the 9 and 21 EMAs, and just when they cross, buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling, and it's that easy. So especially in a bull market, it's going to get easier. The only thing that you need to watch are the wicks. As we saw yesterday, there was a whole heap of shakeouts across the board. You've got to remember exchanges need to make money, and they make that from fees. So if everyone's just hodling and holding on, they're going to get shake out the over leveraged traders by, you know, making the market go up and down. So we saw Solana go down and then up 25%. So yeah.
Absolutely. Talking of your trading methods, I know you love to work closely with Ethereum. Did you want to have a look at that before we move into the group?
So Ethereum is one of my favorite things to trade because it moves in such a crazy pattern, and I like to try and master it. So at the moment, we should head to about 4121 is my upper target, 4121 to about 4186. There's a diagonal resistance at that point. So if we take this up to, I'm going to go to see the daily, and we have a look. So if we take the supports from this region, so what happens is when you're looking for targets and that sort of thing, if you don't use fib levels, you can use support and resistance to find those. So we've got a support here that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it broke down and that became our low. So it's an untested resistance now. So that resistance, considering we go straight up, is 4180. I do anticipate that we'll have a pullback at that point, but we then have a diagonal support that is potentially building. So that pullback's not going to be massive. And then a continuation up. And I really do believe ETH is going to see a new all-time high fairly soon. I'm looking at about 5,400. Similarly to where Bitcoin gets to about, 84,000 or something like that, sort of 77 to 84,000. So with that being said, it is likely, ETFs and everything are going to keep driving that.
Okay, good. Anything else you wanted to share with everyone? We've got a lot of requests come in from the group for charts, but before we move off of X and YouTube, was there anything else?
Did I share? Where is it? Oh yeah, I shared that first. Dog with hat. So,
right,
yeah. So that was one that you didn't buy, as I remember.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. I did buy, actually. I did something.
Oh no, that's correct. He did buy, and he did a 20 times margin trade and he got hit with the takeout
before it went up. And so therefore it's not even.
Like I said, exchanges need to make money, and they make it from basically fees. And Josh.
Anyway, right, I think that's enough of that. Let's move on from there. And as always, if you aren't in getting started in crypto.com, jump in, because it really is a good time to be in with us. We're having a lot of fun in there. Otherwise, see you all next week. Let's say goodbye to X.
Hopefully a new all-time high.
That would be epic. And goodbye to YouTube.